It's time for Survivor Angels, an approach to strengthen trauma survivors. Here, you can escape what draws negativity and engage your positive abilities and the gifts that you've always had. Let's activate your angels. And to help you on that journey, here's Chaplain Jody.
There's a moment after trauma that almost no one prepares you for. And it's not the flashbacks, it's not the grief, and it's not the fear. It's the moment when reality itself feels closer, sharper, thinner, less buffered. People struggle to name it, so they often say things like, "Oh my gosh, I feel exposed," or "everything feels more real." It's like there's less distance between me and life. And then they stop talking because, again, they don't want to sound unstable, little crazy, little wacko. Mm-mm. Well, this episode is for that moment. I'm not going to dramatize it or spiritualize it prematurely. I'm going to orient it. So let's define the veil without romance. The veil is not mystical fabric between worlds. It's a perceptual boundary. It's the layer of filtering that keeps reality manageable. Before trauma, most people live comfortably behind it. They don't notice everything. They don't feel everything. And they don't sense everything. After trauma, that filter can get thin. Not disappear, not tear open. Thin. And thinning changes how the world feels. Well, what people actually experience when the veil thins is heightened sensitivity, stronger intuition, deeper emotional resonance, sharper moral clarity, and awareness of fragility, feeling fragile, a sense of presence that they didn't have before. This isn't psychosis and it's not enlightenment. It's exposure. The nervous system has been pushed beyond its usual range, and it hasn't fully returned yet. Trauma forces presence. It forces you to be in the moment. Trauma doesn't just hurt. It interrupts unconscious living. When survival is on the line, autopilot shuts off. And when autopilot shuts off, perception widens. Suddenly you notice tone, you notice timing, you notice mood shifts, and you definitely notice when something feels off. This can feel like a veil lifting. But what's actually happening is forced awareness. This maybe feels spiritual. Here's the honest truth. Many spiritual traditions seek what trauma forces. Forces presence, awareness, impermanence, humility, and attention. But trauma does not prepare you for what it opens. It throws you into awareness without training. And that's why this phase can feel both profound and terrifying. And there's a danger of naming it too quickly. Here's where people get hurt. They rush to name the experience. I'm awakened. I'm psychic now. I see through reality. Or they rush to dismiss it. I'm broken. I'm losing my mind. This shouldn't be happening. Both of those moves bypass orientation. The veil thinning is a phase, not an identity. The veil is not meant to stay thin forever. This is critical. The veil is not meant to stay thin forever. A constantly thin veil is not sustainable. Humans need that buffering. We need rhythm. We need containment. And if the veil stayed thin permanently, life would become totally overwhelming. So, the goal is not to keep it open. Rather, the goal is integration. Angels are at the thinning. And this is often when people sense presence. Not visions, not voices, but presence. When the veil thins, the psyche seeks that stabilization. Across cultures, angels appear here, not as guides to the other side, but as anchors to this one. They don't pull you through. They help you remain intact while perception reorganizes. So here's where the feeling watched but not judged comes in. Many people report this quietly. I feel watched, but not judged. This is one of the most misunderstood experiences. It's not surveillance. It's not paranoia. It's not ego inflation. Instead, it's awareness meeting itself. When unconscious buffering drops, self-awareness increases. The feeling of being witnessed arises from presence, not external threat. The problem comes when fear fills in the blanks. So when the veil thinning becomes destabilized, we need to be honest here. Veil thinning becomes a problem when sleep is consistently disrupted, when fear escalates instead of settles, when identity dissolves instead of deepens, and daily functioning declines, so meaning becomes urgent. Well, at that point, grounding takes priority. It's not interpretation, it's not spirituality, it is good old solid grounding. This is where discernment lives. Discernment is not rejecting this experience, and it's not containing, or I should say, discernment is containing it. You don't stare at the sun to understand light, and you don't live without skin to feel alive, right? Well, the veil exists for a reason. And here's where sacred geometry helps again. Think of the membrane in a cell. Go back to your biology class. Semi-permeable, selective, protective. Too rigid, and nothing enters. Too porous, and the system collapses. Health lives in regulation, not openness. Survivors often mistake exposure for calling. This is a hard truth. Feeling more does not mean you're meant to teach. Seeing more does not mean you're meant to lead. And sensing more does not mean you're meant to interpret for others. It means your perception has changed. And what you do with that change matters. As I've said, this is the 7th episode for this season. The season spine again here. Let's anchor this. Orientation over interpretation. Integration over intensity. Stability over symbolism. The veil thinning does not make you special. Oh, sorry, not a special little snowflake here. It makes you responsible. And so the veil rethickens naturally. It's like you're riding a wave, thick and thin, thick and thin. Over time, with support, rest, and grounding, perception regulates. Sensitivity softens. Awareness becomes usable and presence stabilizes. The veil doesn't slam shut though. It recalibrates. And what remains is wisdom, not exposure. What this episode is not saying, this episode is not saying ignore what you noticed. It's not saying dismiss what you felt. And it's not saying deny spiritual language. It is saying don't live there. You passed through something. That doesn't mean you stay at the threshold. Remember that episode a few back? So here's a quiet reframe to hold. The veil thinned so you could see. It thickens so you can live. Both are necessary. Well, in episode 8, we'll talk about why survivors struggle to return to normal conversations, why small talk feels kind of unbearable, and why values shift, even why patience runs thin, and how not to disappear because of it. If the world has felt closer lately, if joy and grief feel sharper, if you'd wonder whether you're too open now, let this episode ground you. Nothing is wrong with you. Something passed through you. And now the work is to come home to yourself without closing your eyes again. Until next time, stay steady, stay embodied, and remember, the veil doesn't exist to separate you from life. It exists to help you live it. Activate your angels.
Thanks again for joining Chaplain Jody on Survivor Angels. For more information, go to chaplainjody.me. That's chaplainjody.me. And on Facebook at Survivor Angels-Chaplain Jody. This is Dave Schrader. Until next time, sending you off to activate your angels.